Welcome to another episode of Thoughts of a Trillionaire Becoming a Techno Wizard in One. So, I had a great conversation with somebody by the name of Christopher Lafayette. He is a number of things. You're going to hear about him on my A More Delightful Future podcast, episode 6, I believe he's going to be on. I just recorded it today, so probably going to be out in 3 weeks if I do weekly podcasts instead of bi-weekly or monthly. But after that podcast, we got to talking about um how what I want to do, right? What do I want to do truly in terms of business, in terms of startups, in terms of changing the world? And it was such an interesting conversation because I've thought about this for a long time. I've wanted to change the world for a very long time since we talk about it all the time in my channels. You know, if you watch any of these videos, you probably know I want to change the world, right? But for the longest time, or most of that time, I felt like I have to constrain my vision, like what I think I can do to change the world and what I want to work on, or what I am working on in the short time, in the short range to begin, that work. And the latest iteration of all these ideas is of course Flubby, and that is because not simply because it wasn't because Flubby is something that I necessarily want to work on a daily basis, right? Of but it's because it seemed like the most practical way to start changing changing the world, start doing the sorts of things that I felt like was necessary, was would be life changing for people. And I say all that because I understand it's probably coming in cold, but whatever, or coming in hot. But I truly want to change the world for the better because I feel so very frustrated, living in life. Living in today's time, I felt like I'm so lucky to be living when I do now. And this has been a change of heart because before I felt like I was too early, right? Like this is there's no space exploration. Like when I was super young, when I was in like kindergarten, first grade, second grade, I wanted to fly in space. I wanted to be like Star Trek, be like Star Wars, out in space, exploring. And then when I got a little bit older, when I got into fantasy, I wanted to be back in the old days, you know, exploring new lands and maybe even fighting dragons or whatever, right? That sense of whimsy. But when I got exposed to technology more and more, I started to realize this is an amazing time to be alive because we're at a point where, and I'm going somewhere with this. Hold on to me. So we're at a point where we have technology that is changing the fabric of our reality on a regular basis to the point where you look up every few years and it's completely changed. Like the landscape has changed. And it's just extremely humbling as well as amazing and empowering that we as humans can do so much in such a short amount of time. However, at the same time, as all this amazing work is going on, as all this amazing technology is going on, you wouldn't be surprised to know that certain people, certain large parts of the population, of the global population, are missing out. Even me, who makes an effort to see what's going on with startups, with Silicon Valley, with technology, AR, VR, all this other stuff. Even me, I miss out. And it's not a matter of fear of missing out. No, I mean, I miss out on key technology, on things that if I had access to, I could probably be doing so much more right now, right? Like having tools to things like Gravity Sketch, right? If I had Gravity Sketch, I could show you the buildings, the cities I want to build. I can show you the type of spaceship models that I want to build. I can show you the hover car models that I wanted to build when I was younger. I can show you skyways and all these other ideas that I had in my head, that I have in my head. I could maybe even start producing game worlds that I think will be super interesting to be in, right? But I don't have access to that. Gravity Sketch requires a good PC VR, which means you need a good computer to run it, which means you need money to buy that computer, right? And then you need to buy the headset, of course. So, and this is just a small itty bitty first world problem, first world example of this massive pervasive problem where we live in an age where technology is changing the structure of our reality. And I mean that in almost a literal sense because once you get to that level, you start to realize that's why you hear so many people talking about the simulation hypothesis so much more now. And granted, this is not a new thing. Like you heard Plato's cave theory. This is a thing we've been thinking about for thousands of years. However, back then it was just like Plato and his people, like the philosophers thinking about, oh, what if it's a simulation, you know? But now it's the average person. You go on YouTube and you hear people, you see videos of simulation hypothesis. You see videos of Elon Musk talking about, hey, like Elon Musk is one of the richest people in the world, whatever that means, right? But he's one of the richest people in the world, so he's very influential. And so when people hear him say, "Oh, maybe we live in a simulation," the average person is not like, "What does that mean for my life?" Right? And it's amazing and scary at the same time because so much of what we do today is unfortunately severely out of reach. So much of what is happening today is out of reach. And it doesn't make sense why. We hear all the time, oh, you have access to all the world's knowledge. You pull up Wikipedia and learn anything. You can all of MIT's courses are online, right? You hear all this stuff. But even though we have pocket computers in our hands, most of us in America, what I think it's 4 billion people, or at least 4 billion phones. But yeah, roughly half, I think, the population of the world has access to smartphones. And yet, it doesn't necessarily feel like we have access to all the world's knowledge. It doesn't feel like we're making the world a better place, right? It doesn't feel like today we live in a better time than ever before. It doesn't feel like that. Why? Why is that? And that's something that's been bothering me for a very long time. And there are different, things that I wanted to that I had ideas of how to solve that, right? I wanted to build a game and something that would be on the level of World of Warcraft, but better, of course, higher fidelity. But it wouldn't just be a game, it would be educational. It will teach you how to use science, how to use technology, how to use even history and all this other stuff, right? It will teach you how to use these different things to really take that into your life. And then I had an idea for an internet box, I called it, where you can it basically curates the best knowledge on the web, puts it on your screen so you know exactly how to get access to different knowledge or whatever. So it gets basically in like a podcatcher, like a blog, like a newsletter, but all in the browser. That I can go into, but basically there's another idea just to make it easier for people to get access to this knowledge and stuff like that. Then I had of course, ideas for hover cars and all this other stuff for smart cities. And the idea for that is the same concept: is making it easy for people to see what's going on in their city, to get from point A to point B, to see, oh, these stores, like these are the stores that's available. Right now, I live in Atlanta. I still have no idea most of the things going on in Atlanta, even though I've lived here all my life. And there's so many examples of this. And this is just in America. Think about the world. Think about how many people in Asia have no idea about the resources and things available to them. Think about how many people in Africa still don't have access to running water, much less, you know, high speed internet. Think about the people in South America who, like in Venezuela, who now don't have, a strong currency to, to buy things. Why? We live in a time where Bitcoin, a completely computer generated, thing that most people don't even know how it works, but is now more valuable. It's one Bitcoin is worth $50,000 as of February of 2021. It's probably going to be higher, after, or maybe it'll go back in a splurge, but eventually it's going to go back high because we're living in a time where we can create so much value, so much amazing just stuff, content, whatever you want to call it, right? And yet, most of the world has no idea. Most of the world has no idea how to use it, has no idea it exists, right? It's not changing their lives for the better. It doesn't feel like it's changing their lives. Like we have markers that indicate we have higher health, we have lower crime, we have, you know, better access to water and all the other stuff. We have indicators that says yes, this is the data shows we live in a better time than ever before, and yet it doesn't feel like that. And yet, suicide is at an all-time high. Depression, anxiety, loneliness. So, what is this schism? That's the type. That's the problem. I really, really been thinking about. Really been interested in solving. And again, like I said before, Flubby is the most recent iteration of how I thought I could begin solving this problem. But when I was talking to Chris, he put it to me in a way that was like that helped me see that I could be thinking even bigger. And that's saying something for me because I think big. All right. If you've seen any of these videos, these podcasts, I be up there in the in the stratosphere. Um, and the reason is because I felt like I had to limit, I had to start with something that's practical, right? Something that is realistic, something that I can do right now with my current skills, which is not much. So I thought, I should start small, as small as I can get, even though my small is pretty big. But I thought I had to start here. But as I was talking to him, he asked me like what I want to do. Unfortunately, I was not able to describe what I wanted to do in a succinct way. And I think in that he saw that I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Like like he put it to me this way. He said, you know, I need to know what I want to do as much as I know that I wanted to do a podcast. Right? Like for a podcast, I knew that I wanted to like for the A More to Life of Future podcast, I knew I wanted to, I don't know, do something in the space of making emergent technology more accessible. Making and I thought I could do that by talking about design, about how emergent technology is designed, right? And of course, I didn't know exactly what. Like it changed a little bit. It changed throughout the time, throughout just a few for a couple of episodes. But I knew it's going to be short, not because people don't listen to short things, but because the people I'm interviewing don't have a lot of time. So I knew it needed to be 10 to 20 or 20 to 30 minutes. I knew that in order, the only thing I had access to do it was through Zoom. So I would do that, right? I would talk to designers and I would talk to executives. That's it, right? Simple, but powerful. And as I've been talking to these people, they were like, oh man, you guys great questions. You guys, this is a great, interview. And people that's listened to it, it's like, oh wow, this is great. And it surprised me because I ain't gonna lie, like this is not, it's not highly polished, right? It's not super fancy. It's not Tim Ferriss type of podcast. It's not Lex Friedman. It's not Jason Calacanis, and it, it's not that to that level yet. But people have enjoyed it so far. and I knew what I wanted to do going in. Again, I didn't know everything, but I knew what I wanted to accomplish, and I've adjusted it, as I've been going. Same thing for this YouTube channel and this podcast, Thoughts of a Trillionaire, as well as becoming a techno wizard. I knew that I wanted to document my thoughts. I wanted to document my journey. What that means, I don't know, right? But I knew I wanted to document my journey. I wanted to have flexibility. Sometimes I have a short episode, sometimes I have a long episode. Sometimes, for the Thoughts of a Trillionaire podcast, the idea is to post it on a daily basis, but ended up ends up being like 2 to 3 times a week. But I have an idea of what I want to do with it, when I want to post and all that other stuff, where I want to post it, all that, right? Same thing for the YouTube. And Chris was saying, that's the type of level of surety, of certainty that I need to have for my ideas, for a business, a startup, or whatever that I want to start, entrepreneurship that I really want to work on. Because if somebody comes to me, Elon Musk, Bill Gates, or just some other investors that says, I'm willing to give you money to work on anything that you want to work on, but you have to tell me what you want to work on. If I go out and be like, oh yeah, I want to, I want to help self empowerment, I want to build a community. Okay, but what does that look like? What am I actually working on? Right. And that is the problem that I've been facing. Even though I did have Flubby and I could have started with that, like Chris knows about Flubby. I told him about it in some other aspects, but I didn't start with that. And initially is because I wanted to give an overview, right, before I dived in. But I think he saw, and I now I also kind of agree that I just didn't really know that what I wanted to do. Like with Flubby, even though I really like it, and there's a lot that I want to do with it, I know that it's not exactly what I want to do. So all that being said, he gave me a homework assignment to just put pen to paper, as he says, and really write down what I want to do. So I started doing that. So I'm gonna start putting that here. All right. First, I'm gonna read what I have, and then I'm just gonna go off of it, or maybe I don't know. We'll see. But just so you know, it is kind of very rough. I just started just writing things out of my head, and then I went into detail about what resonated with me the most. So here we go. First, let me drink some water. So I want to work on problems that I feel like will truly change the quality of life of the average person, especially low to middle class Black people, people of color, for the better in America. Why? Because that's where I live. That's people I know. That's who I am. And I want to work on a project that does deep levels of research, but quickly and ethically. I want the results of the research to be applied to real life changes in the short term, quickly. Meaning, I don't want 5 year research things and then it takes another 5 to 10 years for the technology to come out, like graphite or graphene, whatever. No, I want to be able to have a short term research phase of a couple months where it's really great high tier research, and then we turn that around into some product that we can use to actually improve their lives in the next couple of months. So within that year and a year or less, we can come out with a product that really solves your problem and that really makes your life better. Like just like that. Why? Because this is the time that we live in. This is the technology that we have access to today. And I want the results of that research to be applied to real life changes in short term. And I want to work on something that's flexible in implementation. I want to work on games, on immersive experiences, on data transparency, on creativity, and on self empowerment. I know this is vague, but again, I was just putting things down so I can get things out of my head. Um, so the first kind of general idea for an actual product, right? I want to create a bot, an AI buddy that can help improve your life measurably and sustainably on a daily basis. This bot is like a friend or an assistant that can show you exactly, and I kind of stopped there because I was going into details, but to continue that, like the bot would maybe, Well, it doesn't matter. The details doesn't matter. It was just an idea. But to go on, the next one, I want to create an immersive world where people can create their dreams in an oasis type of experience and explore the bounds of human imagination. Again, get to that part of exploration. Like I wanted to explore, but it feels like today we live in a time where there's not much to explore, even though there is, because there's amazing amount of content out there. If you go on YouTube, Netflix, games, all this stuff. This is why it's so amazing because there's so much to explore, right? However, that's not the only thing that's important. Like pure content doesn't matter if it doesn't change your life, right? If it doesn't make your life better, you become tired of it. And so that's why it's just an idea. It's not really something, I don't think it's something that I really want to focus on. Same thing for the AI buddy, right? Like I do think that is important, but not everybody wants a buddy. Like sometimes I would want to speak to an AI buddy or whatever, but other times I just want like a system. I just want to create. I just want to meet somebody, right? And so that's why those two, they were interesting to me, but they don't feel like exactly what I want to do. Another idea: I want to create quantum-based computers that can simulate real life. I just find the quantum area so interesting, and for a long time, I keep saying for a long time because, but it's true. I've been thinking about this stuff for so long. But I want to use quantum computers to create real life simulations where you go on there and it's actually showing you how like photons and electrons and all these, particles, whatever, can come together. You can create a real life product. You can simulate real life by simulating how life works in reality. And I say it like that because today we have game engines that have nothing to do with real life, that like don't really correlate, with how life actually works. That's why it takes so much effort to make something realistic, to make something systematic, to make something that feels like it's living and breathing rather than just some block of pixels or whatever, right? And I think quantum computers will be the key to creating simulations that are realistic. um but yeah, that's another idea. But again, it's one of those things that feels like it's going to be important, but not to everybody, right? And I really, really, really want to make it so that everybody, anybody, can just pop open this thing, whatever it is, and just start having a better life, just like that. Because that's the time we live in. Like it's amazing that we have access to all this technology, all this amazing knowledge, and yet most people spend it to flow through Twitter, to go through YouTube, and they feel anxious because of it. They feel blah blah. I can go on and on. We're gonna get to that. But yeah, that's another thing. And then another idea. I want to break down the barriers of reality to harness the fundamental nature of consciousness. Again, it's one of those far out things, but we're getting to a point. If you look into science right now, we're getting to a point where we're going back into panpsychism, into this idea that consciousness is the fundamental aspect of reality, where we realize that space and time is not real. Like, I'm not going to get too much into it right now, but suffice to say, our science is getting to a point and our technology is getting to a point where we can actually prove that what we see as reality is not real, right? And so there's people like Chalmers, Dave, I think Dave Chalmers is his name, and Don Hoffman, that are making a case against reality. I think that's actual Don Hoffman's book, A Case Against Reality. But they're making a case to show that consciousness is at the center of reality. And so I want to create something that, I don't know, makes it easier to see that, like some type of psychedelics that makes it easy to be like, oh wow, break out of, this current reality that we see ourselves with, and to explore beyond our reality. But anyways, that's another idea, but it's something that's like far, I have no idea what it looks like, and I don't really know if that would make people's lives better, to be honest with you. It's cool, it's amazing, but would that actually make people's lives better? Questionable. Might have a lot more problems than solutions with that one, unfortunately. I do think there's a very strong place for that, and that's going to be later on, like in humanity's maturity. I think that's going to help us to get to a point. where we can be like a type 4 civilization or something. We can just just jump the whole scale. But are we there yet? I don't think so. I don't think just putting that out there, that technology out there, is going to solve problems, because we've seen, and I think who said this? Who said this? Somebody I was working with who's creating. I forgot his name. I'm so sorry. Michael. Yeah, Michael. I don't know his last name. I forgot his last name, but he's working on the thing called Learning Path Makers. He's making like the Pokemon Go of learning, and he says um sufficiently advanced technology gets burned at the stake, or something like that, right? Because, and it's true, it's unfortunate, and that's something that's hit me hard, because I'm like, oh, I want to create magic, but throughout history, magic gets burned at the stake, right? People don't understand it. People are scared of it. They're like, oh, this is witchcraft, this is devilry, this is, in today's term, this is aliens, or this is conspiracy, this is whatever, right? And people burn you at the stake. People are ready to tear you down because it is so far out there. It brings them so far out of their comfort zone that they fight or flight reflexes instantly. And you, it's unfortunate, but you have to be cognizant of that. That's why you can't just drop technology and be like, oh yeah, here's going to change it, it's going to disrupt. That's why people are kind of clawing back that idea of disruption, because disruption is not always good, right? You might have a good intent with it, but it could destroy your way of life for the worse, right? Before it makes it better, and it could kill people before, entire communities can be destroyed by either technology, by like weapons, by bioweapons. I know it's the same thing, but basically, like, we can create some type of, like, it's amazing that somebody didn't create like a super virus through something like CRISPR yet, or didn't like nuke everybody yet, or didn't create a bot, an AI bot that is gone. Like, we have all these doomsaying events for technology that runs rampant, and that's a real problem. That's the problem of disruption, it's of software eating the world, of us creating technology that's so far advanced that most of us don't know how it works. That's actually the problem of what's happening right now, right? That is a huge issue, and people don't realize that. And I'm the last one to be like, oh, doomsaying. Like, I don't like doomsaying, but you have to recognize that a lot of the problems we have today is actually from technology that has gone rampant already. YouTube, Twitter, Google, the engineers there don't know how it works. The engineers don't know why YouTube recommended this certain thing, or why, people suddenly, suddenly this certain crazy video is trending. They don't know. They can give you some maybe ideas, but they don't really know. Like, there's no, it's a black box. And that's a serious issue. It's, you see what the problems that it's creating, so you have to be very cognizant of that. And I think this idea of consciousness, it can be one of those things. So anyways, so this is when I really started to get into this whole thing. As I put these ideas out there, I started to realize, hmm, this is what I have interest in, this is what I don't, this is what I want to do on a daily basis. So here we go. I want to make it easy for people anywhere to improve themselves, to create from their imaginations, to expand their mind, to connect with others, to solve big problems, to invent magic, to be their best selves, to live fulfilling lives. I want to make the most of today's technology, to truly bring forth the awesome power of pocket sized computers to bring out the best in everyday people. I want to expose people to the best the world has to offer: music, podcasts, videos, movies, shows, educational lessons, tools, resources, other people, etc. at the push of a button. I want to make it so easy to get connected to like things that are life changing and that will truly help you be a better person, that it's like, right? It's easier than watching Netflix. It's easier than jumping on YouTube. It's easier than playing a game to just improve your life, to qualitatively, measurably improve your life. And I want these to have no manipulative manipulative algorithms, no advertisements, No censored information, no racially or sexually or culturally or whatever biased discriminatory ideas, no pseudoscience, no dopamine hijacking content, no, excuse my language, no bullshit or fuckery. Just pure, high quality, amazing knowledge, content, whatever you want to call it. I want content that is additive and empowering in nature, that grasps nuance, that makes clear assumptions or makes clear any assumptions that they may have, right? That draws ethical conclusions, that biases toward positive action or at least reflection rather than outrage, that helps to make your life qualitatively and measurably better. I'm going to go in more into this, but let me continue. I want to create a tool that can be used to educate the masses just as easily as empower them to solve the world's biggest problems. I want to create a tool that unites us more than ever before, while also respecting and cherishing each other's differences and highlighting diversity. I want to create a tool that feels magical in the way that it inspires, motivates, and empowers each and every single person to be the best version of themselves that they can be. This will allow me, my selfish reason of doing this is to embrace my own tendency to jump between projects and ideas, to focus on a project with multiple facets, to bring together all of my interests and knowledge towards one focal point that just so happens to be applicable to any field or medium I want to pursue. Because man, there's so much stuff I want to do, and I said in my podcast earlier, but I think I may have ADHD. All right, like I've always been interested in doing this and that and that and that. And I've handled myself really well by setting up organization structures and ways of jumping from one project to another, of reminding myself to complete things and to reach to not forget things and this, that, and the other, right? But there's always like I can never focus on just literally one project. I get bored. But working on a bunch of different things, reading different things, seeing different things at this, not literally at the same time, but in the same time span, allows me to apply things across departments and subjects. So I want to do a project that allows me to really do that, and this will also allow people to see the indubitable, yes, I love that word, indubitable interconnectedness of reality, to see how the solution to one problem may end up coming from a source from a completely different subject area than they ever thought to expose themselves to. I want to be able to both pursue and showcase the vibrancy of life through the application of cross functional technology. I want to highlight the ecology of technology by the biomimicry of the ecosystems in which we live. I know some big words there, but I want to use that because Chris says that a lot. He uses the ecology, the ecosystem, and I love that because that's what we are. Like I've been thinking about this all day, all week, all month, all whatever. Like we as humans are animals. We forget that so many times just because we have all this technology and we, can talk and all that. We think ourselves that we are not animals. We think ourselves above them, above the other creatures on this earth. We think ourselves completely different, even unnatural. We think ourselves above nature. This house we live in, we say it's not natural, right? We think it's distinct from nature, but this is all an ecosystem. There's so many animals. I don't want to go too far into it, but just look up some nature things. Like so many animals do the same things that we do, right? They craft their own habitats, their own living areas. They have all these crazy cultural things and mating rituals, and they use their own type of technology and all this other stuff. Only difference between them and us is that we happen to have just to be able to pass that knowledge on from generation to generation and to build on top of it more and more. That's really the only difference. And I guess we can think in the future, right? I think it's most animals can't do that, unfortunately. But most animals also cannot like pass on information from generation to generation. Not really. And when you look at nature, like we're animals. We're just like them, just like any other animal, but we can pass on that knowledge. And yet we fail to do that. We fail to really learn from our history. We have thousands of years. This calendar right here, this is from Kurzgesagt. Excuse me for the noise, but he has a thing where he says, we live in the year 12,021, not 2021. Our society is thousands of years old, right? We started creating cities, civilization as we know it 10,000 years ago, not 2,000, not 5,000, over 10,000 years ago, where we started creating the city, at least the ones that we can see, the ones that we can actually dig up right now. Some people say that there may be there may be proof of us building cities 40, 50,000 years ago. That's crazy, right? But very likely. And so we have literally millennia of knowledge that we're building on top of. This technology that you see around us is just the effect of us standing on the giants of literally thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, millions of other humans in our direct lineage. I'm not talking population. I'm just talking like the people who you descend upon from your parents, your grandparents, their so on and so forth. You're standing on their shoulders. You know, that's the height that you're at right now. So when you look down at these other animals, you it's arrogant to look at them as if they're lesser, as if they're some dumb animals, right? Who's really dumb? Is the one that doesn't know that they're standing on the shoulders of thousands of other of their descendants, or the ones that are, you know, just living their life as best as they could, as best as they can. At least we have self consciousness. We're able to be self aware. That's supposed to be one of our, you know, our differences is that we're self aware. And yet, so many of us are not self aware enough to see the history of where we come from, to see the access to the resources that we have available to us, to see the ramifications of the decisions that we make when we are purely profit driven, when we litter, when we do stupid stuff, right? When we call ourselves as above nature and yet constantly shit on nature, right? It's like shitting on where you sleep. It's like shitting on your mother. That's a very graphic image, but that's the point. And see, I'm getting into this. This is how I know I'm onto something when I just get real graphic with it, real passionate with it, because like we live in a time where you have access to so much, and yet we fail to make the best of it. Even I have no idea how to really use this phone. They use something 100 times less efficient than this to go to the moon. To go to the moon. Why can't I do that? Is there any app for me to go to the moon right now? Right? So, and you might be wondering, like, what the hell am I talking about? All right, what does it have to do with anything? What does it have to do with product? What does it have to do with what I want to build? This has to do with truly making technology accessible, with truly making a difference in people's lives, with truly making the most of everything that we have access to today. An animal, when they, a typical animal, not just, because we are animals. I have to remind myself of that too. Just because I say it doesn't mean I instantly remember. I have to remind myself, yes, we're animals. When an animal uses you know, things in the environment, when it eats, when it sleeps, when it reproduces, it extracts from the environment no more than it can put back in. And most of this is not, on a conscious level, of course. Most animals have no idea that they're doing this properly. I have no idea, right? It's just a natural cycle, right? You're eating something, you're pooping it out, goes back into the nature, whatever. But because we as humans are standing on the shoulders of so many animals in our direct lineage, we have lost sight of the floor, of the forest floor, of the ecosystems that we are born in, that we are actually still a part of. Like when we eat, when we reproduce, when we poop, right? All that goes somewhere. It goes right back down into the ecosystem. But we're standing so high, so loftily that we have no idea. We've forgotten sight to have sight. We just forget where we came from, where we're no longer, where we're somewhat self-aware, but we're only aware of the other people, right, on our plane, on our at our eye level, and that is visible in the classism that we see, the racial discrimination, the sexist discrimination, all these discrimination levels, right? Is because that's what privilege is, right? You're standing on the shoulders of people, and you don't even realize that you're standing on their shoulders. And so there are people with shoulder that are not standing on. They're also standing on people's shoulders, but not as high. And so you also lose sight of them too, and you think them below you in a literal sense because you're standing so high, and yet you expect them to just be able to just jump up to where you are. You expect, when you do find out about them, you expect them to be like, why are you down there, right? You think because you're somewhat similar that they should be able to just go up by their bootstraps and do what you did, but you don't realize that you're standing on a few more shoulders than them, right? I know this is extended metaphor. This is very. I'm working through this myself as I'm talking. This is why I wanted to do this, not just write. But we've gotten to a point where we've forgotten what we're standing on, and not only is that bad for the ecosystem that we're in, but it is also bad for the fact that, for the future, for when we have kids, are we going to put them on our shoulders, or are we going to throw them down? That seems like a ridiculous idea, right? Like, why? What? No, of course we're going to prop them up on top of us, right? But we've gotten to a point where we're so high that we don't realize how shaky the ground is. We don't realize how difficult it is for other people, for other animals, for nature, like as in plants, for all of these other parts of the ecosystem to function. And so we don't even realize that those shoulders that we're standing on, they're wobbling. Not because those people are, going a bit. No, it's because the ground itself of the ecosystem is shaking, right? Like an earthquake. And now, and if that shakes enough, you're gonna lose sight. You're gonna fall from the shoulders. And because you had no idea that you were on those shoulders, right? On all those people stacked up on top of each other, we're gonna lose access to all that knowledge. When you fall, all the your whole ancestry, it's gone. You don't even remember what came before. If any disaster happens, let's drop the metaphor for a second. So what I mean by this is that if anything happens today, And I promise I'm not just doomsaying here, but when we see threats, the human mind is more easily able to visualize what it is, rather than just pure, blue sky thinking. So go with me here. If anything happens, a meteor strikes, a nuclear missile, you know, um, global warming in terms of like uh, what hit Texas, like the cold snap in Texas, or forest fires in California and Australia and all this other stuff, right? Once that happens, how do you build it up again? How do you build up again? If you have no idea of the people that came before you, of the people that built this up and how they built it up, then you have no idea how to build it up again. You have to start over from scratch, worse from scratch, because now you live in wreckage. And so now you live in a squalor and the ramifications of your own defecation that you never cleaned up. And so all this is coming in my head. All this comes into being able to realize the privilege that we have, to realize everything that we have access to today, to realize that we're standing on the shoulders of all these people of our ancestry, to realize that we live in an ecosystem where all these other people are standing on shoulders at different levels. And further down, there's a whole bunch of animals, a whole bunch of plants, a whole bunch of other creatures that are not able to stand as high, that are also living in this ecosystem. But that we can be learning from, that we can I'm sorry if I'm burping, that we that we can observe and learn from, to help us not just be better people for ourselves, but create a better ecosystem that's more sustainable, so that if anything does happen in the future, our kids or ourselves or whatever will know what to do. Okay. So that's one aspect of it. That's just one aspect of it. I don't know why I went down that whole pathway, to be honest with you. That's kind of the overall context, I suppose, in my head. But what that looks like on a daily day basis and why is important is because we have access to, say like people say you can learn anything. But how do you really do that? If you want to become an engineer, if you just want to make more money, if you want to build something cool, how do you do that? If you have no idea that MIT has their entire coursework for free, how do you learn that? Do you Google computer, software engineering? Do you go to college? That could be wasting 4 years, 4 years, 4 to 5, 6 years, thousands of dollars that you may or may not have. A bunch of stress and anxiety of people just teaching you things that may or may not apply. Does that really sound like the efficient use of technology and the knowledge that we have today? If you want to make music, how do you do that? You download GarageBand, or do you download Fruity Loops? Do you learn how to play an instrument? Do you, what do you do? Truly, there's a bunch of ways to do it, and I think that that choice is very powerful. But the truth of that is, that's friction points. We talk so much about less friction, right? And don't get me wrong, there's some good friction points too, and I'll get to that. But we talk so much about having less friction, and yet in order to use our smartphones, our amazing software, Google, YouTube, Twitter, all this stuff, to the best of their abilities, it's a lot of friction. A lot. If you want to meet somebody that will change your life, that will be a great mentor for you, How do you do that? Who do you speak to? Go on LinkedIn and you what? Randomly message 1,000 people. Hopeful, be hopeful that somebody comes back to you and that person would be a good, fit for you. If you have a business and you want to hire people, how do you do that? Put out a job application or job description on LinkedIn or Indeed or any of these job spaces. Set up a lever account and hope people apply. Why is it that we live in a time where we claim that we're 6 degrees of separation, even three degrees of separation apart from anybody that can change your life for the better, and yet there's so much friction. Those 6 degrees is so much friction. What if you want to create a new Afrocentric world, like me and my girl? Like we want to create basically like a real Wakanda. Well, I want to create a real Wakanda. She wants to create like really great stories that tell the stories of Black people, tell the stories of our our African ancestors that help us see our heritage. How do we do that? She has to write. She has to do a lot of research for and try to find knowledge, research data that hasn't really been researched. She has to find the time to write when she has to worry about bills and food and all this other stuff. Most people today, we want a simple life, just like any other animal. We want to eat, we want to find shelter, we want to reproduce. Of course, there's safety, you got Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? You got that whole thing, but simple things, right? And yet there's so much friction points with that. We say it's easy. Oh, you can order what you want from Uber Eats at the click of a button, except Uber Eats is down. Except you don't have money to order from Uber Eats. Except, you know, then they say, oh, you can go to the store. It's super easy. You don't have a car. Or even if you do happen to be able to go to the store, maybe you don't have access to the money. Maybe you don't have enough money. Maybe all you can afford is ramen. You say, oh yeah, that's you can eat for that for now. Can you really? Is that a healthy lifestyle? Any animal we know that eats just one thing, it's not a healthy animal. I can go on and on with these sorts of things, but this is the stuff I be thinking about. Like we're not that far off from living just like any other animal. If you think about it today, our ancestors, hunter gatherer cultures, what really separates us from them? It's not that much difference from our life today and from where their life was before. If we stop working, we could lose our homes, end up on the street, become homeless. We have amazing medication. So you see my point. I can go on and on. I can go on and on. That's how I know I'm on a good. I'm talking about what I'm interested in. But the point is, we say we have access to so much, and yet there's so much friction with that access. So I was thinking, what if we have a tool? It could be an AI buddy. It could be a AR thing. It could be a VR. It could, world. It could be whatever. But a tool, a system that makes it easy to live life how you want to live a fulfilling life, not for happiness, mind you, because happiness it goes into that whole hedonistic thing where you can just get a thing that dopamine hit for your brain and boom, you're happy, right? Nah, we know with so much research that have been going on that what makes a good life for animals, for humans, is living a fulfilling life That means not just surviving, but thriving, which means going through challenges and overcoming them. Not just going through challenges, because we like to say, oh, adversity, oh, hustle, oh, whatever. But we know for a fact 90% of businesses fail. We know for a fact most people, what I think 60, maybe even up to 80 in some places, percent of people hate their work. You can't just stop with just challenges, just adversity, just work. No, we don't live to work. We live to overcome challenges, to solve problems. That's what the human mind really enjoys. One of the things that we really enjoy. So to thrive, which means to overcome challenges, which means to learn and grow. And you can probably go on from there. And this is all off the top of my head based on, what I've read and seen and lived so far. But my point is that if that is what it means to live a good life, why don't we go straight for that? Why are we over here creating technology that says, "Oh yeah, let's make this work easier. Let's make MOOCs. Let's make VR games that are more immersive than ever before." We don't live for immersion. We don't live to work. We don't live for whatever Netflix TV show that's on now. We live for fulfillment. The purpose of life is to experience life. And the best experiences are ones that are fulfilling, ones that are, when we wake up in the morning, we have a sense of purpose, whether that is just to explore or just to, you know, connect with other people or to solve some big problem, right? When we wake up in the morning, we have a purpose, we have an idea of what we want to do for the day, we have a clear, actionable steps of how to do it, and we can do it. No friction. Our hunter gatherer cultures, and I like to go back into history a lot because I said it in a past podcast, but we have a huge bank account that we can cash in on in terms of our ancestors. This is the same type of metaphor in terms of all those people that we're standing on, right? Hunter gatherer cultures, that sect of humanity, that time span, that epoch of humanity thrived, I would say probably thrived for thousands of years, for anywhere from 200,000, depending on what type of humans you're talking about, Homo erectus, Homo sapiens, stuff like that, for roughly around 200,000 years to 40, 50, 40, 30, 20,000 years ago. For thousands of years, hunter gatherer cultures were the stuff. But that was the move. Agricultural cultures has only been in existence, what, 2,000 years or something like that. And ever since, we've been going downhill. Not exactly like that. Don't get me wrong. We have some great stuff. Yes. But when we look at happiness, when we look at lifespan, and yet, despite the what they tell you and the or what the statistics, bias towards, average life expectancy it's actually gone down. We actually have data that shows people from back then lived longer if they did survive past um, infant mortality or things like disease while they were young, or things like war. Right? It's not like they lived to the age of 30 or 50 or 60 and then just croaked. No, it was like they had a lot of stuff they were going through, but if they lived, you know, to be 80, 90, 100, they can live that long and comfortably. We have data that shows older people from back then were more fit than older people of today. Think about that. If you're 50, 60, 70, 80 years old back then, you'll be doing a lot more than just sitting in a wheelchair. So you can't tell me that we live in a better time when the bulk of your life today is dealing with health issues, is dealing with mental health, is dealing with, you know, lack of fulfillment, of not knowing what you want to do in your life, right? It doesn't make sense. So when I think about what I want to do, especially in the short term, I want to make it easy for people to truly live a fulfilling life, whatever that means for them. And that's the amazingness of this. Like for me, who wants to work on a whole bunch of different things, that means that I can research people. I can look at how people live and create something that makes it easy for them. That makes it easy for them. Not I don't mean an easy life. I mean a fulfilling life. If that means, oh, excuse me, if that means working every day, so from, dawn till dusk, and so be it. That's for you to decide, not for me, not for some government, not for your family, not for anybody else but you. The only things that you have to worry about with something like this is those people who, oh, a good life for me is killing people. Good life for me is, you know, enslaving somebody else. Yeah, those people you're gonna have to watch out for. And the tool will be made to make sure that that is the compromise, that is the line, right? To make sure where you're living your best life doesn't come at the expense of somebody else's life. That's the big thing, because that's what worries me about emerging technology. I really want to work on so much of this emerging technology because I think it really can make life better, and it's so interesting, right? It's new, it's different. I can work on different things. It's not the same over and over again. This is why I think I have ADHD too, because I can't do the same thing over and over again. I can't. I have to change it up. But we. What was I saying? Sorry. We live in a time where. Oh yeah, that was what. So we don't emergent technology and all this stuff. A lot of times it comes at the expense of somebody else, right? Like your phone has materials in it that people had to mine in Africa, right? Like little kids are mining for this for the copper, or not the copper, but what do you call it? The rare earth metals, right? That are used in your phone and your electric cars and all this other stuff. Can't have that. That's the joy of this tool, right? Because in my head, I'm thinking of something that is flexible, that shows you, hey, if this is the life you want to live, this is how you can live it, how you can live it sustainably. And it shows you that by showing maybe transparency, data transparency, right? Like I said earlier, of these resources actually comes from this mine, right? This is the people who work at this mine. This is their living conditions. Your taxes, this is where it goes to. When you throw something away, this is where it goes. This tool makes it easy to see all that, and you be like, oh, so now you can make an informed decision. If you want to, be a musician, it shows you, hey, this is how you can be a musician. You can create music every day. You can do this. Like it will give you advice based on evidence of successful people, based on people who are in the industry and are doing this. You get advice from them, and it shows you, hey, but if you use Spotify, you may want to be careful of this, that, and the other. Like they can, fake their royalties. Like look up the video, The Dark Side of Spotify. That's crazy. Um, it will show you these things. It will make it transparent. And yeah, I know this is dangerous, right? People are like, oh, people are gonna come get you for that. Well, we live in a time where any technology is disruptive. So why not make technology that is disruptive in the right way? That is ethically better. That is ethically disruptive. Not disrupting ethics, but making ethics the forefront, right? Making transparency the forefront. That's what I want to work on. And I can go on and on. So my focus is now, how do I describe this in a succinct manner? I think I have an idea, but let's talk through it. So, like I said, I think this tool, this system should be something that is conversational, that is able to be aware, become aware of your specific mindset. So that means being able to give you assessments, right? Get you in contact um, with therapists, clinicians, whatever that can tell you exactly what's up with your mind, and that can cross-reference that with genetics, that can cross-reference that with social data, so you can really understand how you think and get a map of your own mind. And so now when you see a situation, you know you can pull up this tool, this system, and it points out, hey, this is how you're reacting. This is why you're reacting that way. And then you're like, oh, okay. And then you get some ideas. Oh, maybe you might want to meditate. Maybe you might want to talk to them. Maybe you might want to write. Maybe you might want to be physically active, right? Whatever. It gives you bespoke, curated ideas on how to be better for yourself, what that means for you. If you say, hey, I don't know what I want to do in my life, it can work with you. You say, hey, okay, what have you done so far? What are you interested in? Whatever, right? I don't know what the form is going to take. It could be surveys. It could be, that's the whole point. That's what's so exciting about this thing, right? Like you don't really know. Oh shoot, this thing cut off. Okay, no, you don't really know how it can work. I don't really know how it can work, but there's a number of ways that it can work because we have that technology, right? You can go on BetterHelp, you can go on whatever your health plan is, M1H Health or whatever it's called, right? If you want to invest, you got Robinhood, you got M1 Finance, you got all these other tools, Zelle, Cash App. If you want to make music, you got all these music producing tools, you got all this stuff, right? But today it's not clear what's the best for you, right? Can you really make money with Robinhood, or will they F you out in the future, right? Where you actually lose money. It makes it transparent. It shows you if you want to make money, this is how you can make money. It does that by linking you with actual people making money. That people with similar background or with similar resources or with mentors that really care about your success. You might say, "Oh, there really people out there. Ain't people selfish?" No, there are a number of people out there that really truly want to help other people. Whether that's because, like, I hope you don't mind this, but I'm not gonna say his name. But like my mentor, who I recently found, he it's crazy because he just showed me a video where he was basically doing the same thing he's been doing for the last 10 years ago. Show me a video from like 2009 or something like that. And it doesn't look like it's from 2009, but he's in that video. He's like, "Oh, I just want to teach people, right? Just want to show people what they can do and all this other stuff." But he told me how he kind of feel like he's sold out today nowadays, right? Because he had to make more money to help his family and stuff like that. So he feels like he's sold out in corporate America and has to do all this stuff. But he bought me this mic. He bought me these headphones. No cost. He like doesn't want me to do anything. He's just like, I just want help, right? Whether that's from guilt or whether that's from his long-standing interest in helping people and teaching people and mentoring people, whatever, right? There are a lot of people like that. I've been fortunate enough to find a lot of people like that. My apprentice, I could say her name, Debbie, right? I'm an apprentice for her, and she does so much to show people, how to be good at UX design because she truly cares about UX design. And so my point with this is that why isn't it easier to find people like that? Yeah, we have LinkedIn, we have these mentorship sites or whatever, but why isn't it easier to just have something that is smart in AI? We talk so much about AI and data, so why don't we have an AI that can help you, me, that person, your mom, your dad, your grandma, to find somebody to mentor them, to find somebody to mentee, to find the resource that will help them out of their depression or their anxiety, to find out how to get access to the medical resources that we need. We say you talk so much about, oh, we got this amazing medicines nowadays, and yet so many people have to pay out the ass, excuse my language, just to get life-saving medicine. Why don't we have technology to make that easier, to make that cheaper? It doesn't make sense. This is the type of thing that makes us not much different than where we were 1,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago. Because 10,000 years ago, at least those people, when they had a medical problem, they can go contact their witch doctor or whatever, and they can scrum up some some medicines, some natural medicines out of plants and whatever to go and solve their problem. How do we do that today? We got to go figure out what store to buy from. Oh, and turns out this could, you get, this kind of medicine and you get addicted to it, and what happens then? Or you get another medicine and it gives you a side effect that, give you cancer or something. Is that really better? Transparency, communication, curation. We have all this data, all these algorithms, all this AI, all this technology, high levels of technology. And yet most of us don't live life feeling like we're using we're making the best of that technology. Most of us feel like we're getting pushed out by the technology. And you know this because you see all these people talking about the robots taking their job. If we truly lived in an age where machines were creating more opportunities than not, then why do we have this branding problem? Why do people feel like they're on the losing end? That's something that I want to change, because I truly do love technology, and I think you do too. These clothes, that's technology. This house you live in, that's technology. We love technology, of course, everybody does. But we get to a point where a certain level of technology feels like it's predatory, feels like it is destroying our way of life, where it feels like it is actually causing more friction than it is creating. Here's another example. Again, I can go on and on about this stuff, so I know I'm on the right track. Here's a simple example. My parents got a printer, and that printer has no buttons. It has like not even an actual touch screen. It has like a one of those fall touch things, fake touch things where it kind of lights up. You can touch it and then it does things, but it's not an actual screen. Like you don't there's no information, there's no dynamic information showing you what's what. It just changes color and you know, and opacity. And so I'm trying to figure out, okay, how do I scan this thing? Because I had to scan my tax form so I can send it, you know, email it. And I had no idea how to scan on my printer. It has a scanning bed. You can just open up, put it in there. Okay, okay. So what do I press to scan it? No idea. I had to connect it to a computer. Then I had to download the app, or I had to open up the app because it'd be downloaded to print before. That was another issue. But open up the app. There's a thing that says, "Oh, your printer is not connected." I'm like, "What? We connected it to the internet before." Like, and that's a whole other problem. I'm not going to go into that yet, but we had to connect it to the internet before, so I know it's connected. So why is it saying it's not connected? So I had to figure that out, to troubleshoot that, and then I just started pressing buttons on there, and then it popped out a printed out a sheet that says, "Hey, this is your this is what it's connected to," and it was connected to our Wi-Fi. This is where you can go to log in to the printer thing. This is the other commands that you can use. If you want more information, press this to print another page. I'm just like, this is the 21st century. This is 2021. Is it? This is creating way more friction. I remember the old printer that we had. It had three buttons on there: print, scan, fax, and some numbers. If I wanted to scan, I put thing in there, hit scan. That's it. Less friction. Why is it that we have technology that creates more friction, that makes it more difficult to accomplish a simple task? This is just one small example of a much larger problem. And I bet you can point out a whole bunch of these issues. If you want to make music, how do you do that? Before, they could, our ancestors could, they knew how to actually make an instrument, find strings, find wood, carve it, you know, make an instrument and begin playing, right? Maybe take a few months, but the craft in and of itself was probably fulfilling. The craft, the feeling like you actually created this instrument in your hands, that's amazing. And because you created that instrument in your hands, you had an idea of how to fix it if things went wrong, right? But now, if you want to create music, what do? You either have to be able to afford to buy an instrument, and because you bought it, you probably don't have an idea of how to repair it if something's wrong, unless you spent some time to learn, how to tune it. Maybe you might know how to tune it, but not how to fix it. Same thing with a computer, right? Most people don't really know how to fix their computer or their phone. Even if you wanted to learn how to fix your phone, they make it so hard to do so. It's technology, right? Technology is supposed to make life easier. It's supposed to take the knowledge of our ancestors and make that applicable applicable to the lives that we have now. And yet we've gotten to a point where we have this technology. We don't really know who made it. We don't know how they made it. Most of us today can't tell you how this phone works exactly, for better or worse, right? Like, yes, you don't have to know how it works in order to use it, but if it breaks, like my screen is broken, my screen is cracked, and there's no way for me to repair that unless I send it to somebody to repair it for me. And I don't want to spend that money, right? Because I have needs. I got I got to pay for things, right? You got to put that into my mental calculation. Should I splurge on this to fix my few cracks on my screen or not? Did technology? The point is, did technology make this easier? Make life easier? Did it really? If so many of us face suicide, depression, anxiety, loneliness, these things like that more than ever before, ignorance, you know, it like perfect example. We live in a time where we have more fake information, alternative facts than ever before. They call this the information age. We have access to the world's knowledge, and yet we got we've got problems with fake facts. Like what? What is it? What? You're telling me we can't create an algorithm that determines what's real and what's fake? I don't accept that. I don't accept that we need to that the only experience that we have going through our news feeds is a roulette of whether or not it's real, of whether or not they told the whole truth in this article, of whether or not this headline is just looking for clicks so you can go on there and look at ads, or if it actually has some content in there. I don't accept that. Again, I can go on and on with this stuff, but to bring it all home, I want to work on a tool, a system, whatever it is that makes it easy for us to live a fulfilling life, whatever that means for you. If that means giving you access to better knowledge, we need to figure out a way to give you access to better knowledge. That means giving you, making it easier for you to invent a hover car. That means making it easy for you to invent a hover car. That means showing you who you can talk to to invent this thing. That means showing you what tools to use. That means showing you how to earn enough money to use those tools, or which tools are free. It means showing you how to learn how to use that tools, and showing you how to learn, and making it easy for all those steps to become actionable, to become gamified, if you will. Because gamification is a not only a buzzword, but it's real. Because when you play a game, you have a whole bunch of steps, right? Like a new game that came out. This is why I'm so interested in games too. Valheim, top in the Steam charts. Only 2 weeks after it's made, and it's not polished. It's still in early access, and there's so much you can do there, right? Like if you want to, like the point of the game is bit so far is to defeat 5 bosses. 5 bosses, right? It shows you in the beginning of the game. Boom, you land. These are 5 main bosses. You go fight them, and you kill them, and you get their trophy or their head basically, and you put it on the thing, and then you gain powers. So after each one, you gain more powers. And in order to fight that boss, you're gonna have to go figure out where that boss is. You follow the arrow. There's an arrow that shows you where that boss can be summoned. And in order to summon it, it tells you, oh, you have to, maybe kill this many deer. Like the first boss is a deer. And in order to do that, you have to bring back 8 trophies for the deer, right? So it brings you along. And then, but you realize in order to defeat a deer, they're too fast for you to get close to. You can't just run up on them. They'll run away, right? And so you need to create a bow and arrow. In order to create a bow and arrow, you need to, be able to get a workbench. In order for you to get a workbench, you have to get a building. In order for you to get, you see what it walks you through each of these. It's such a beautifully made game. That's the creme de la creme of game design, why good games are so engaging, because it walks you through how to accomplish a task without babying you. Like it doesn't tell you. This is another thing. This is why it's about fulfillment, not just easy, not just entertainment, right? Because you're grinding. A lot of this game is grinding. It's killing, you know, deer after deer after deer, boar after boar, whatever, for you to get the resources that you need. Is grinding, and people love it because it's like it's freedom. It's not telling them go kill 5 wolves, come back, go kill 3 things. No, it's you get to choose what order you do things in, how you do them, whatever. But it gives you a framework. It gives you a framework that says, this is the ultimate goal. It gives you the ultimate goal, right? The big picture. And then it breaks it down, right? And then from the big picture, you get another big picture, a smaller big picture, right? And there's different ways to get to each one. And you everything you do, you get more skills there. So if you run, you can run for like a minute, and boom, you level up. Not level up, but you gain like a skill point and running, right? This is like the old time RPGs, like I think it was the older Elder Scrolls Oblivion that did that, right? People love that. People were so mad that they kept that out of Skyrim, and Skyrim somewhat does it. It somewhat does it, but there are so many games that people really love that sort of thing because it measures your progress. That's what makes life fulfilling, right? When you can see your progress, when you can see how you improve, and how you're how to be better, right? How to improve, because it's now you're not wondering, oh, I'm actually improving. Like there's so many, we actually have data that shows, hey, this is how you improve. And once you get to this point, you get to a plateau. But you can just do it. Like I was reading Atomic Habits, it tells you all these things. So why isn't it easier to see that? Why don't we have an app that shows you this is how you improve? This is your big goal. This is how you get to that goal. Every time you do something, boom, you level up. Boom, you get a skill point. And you can see how you're growing. You can see how you're progressing through life. Why isn't our life like that? We have the technology. Do you want to use this IoTs and smart glasses for ads? We want to track people online to sell them ads, to manipulate what they look at, and sell them more ads? What's the end goal here? To make more money on your product? Is your product actually going to make their life better? If it is, then Do you really need so many ads? Do you really need to market exactly like this game had no marketing? It just came out and people started playing it, had that network effect where the people played it who were playing it were telling other people like, "Oh wow, you can do this, you can do this," and people were looking at the game like, "Oh wow, you can do that. Wow, let me try it." Right? And maybe that's just my fault. Maybe I'm just biased against marketing. I'm not. I know there is a place for marketing. I'm not straight against it and advertisements and so on and so forth. But we gotten to a point where we've lost sight of the ecosystem. We've lost sight of what we're even here for, what we're even doing. That's what I want to solve. That's what I want to work on. I go on and on, but yeah, I think that's it. And I'm gonna sleep on it. I'll listen to this podcast back and try to write these things down for Chris, show him, see what he thinks. But I think that's it. Yo, I get so excited about this, and this is what I've been thinking about so long. That's what really gets me. It's like I've actually been thinking about this for a long time, but I haven't been looking at it like that. Like my perspective, what was looking, I was like too limited, too askew, right? Mm, yeah, I think this is it, y'all. Mm, this is the beauty of it, because I this again. Okay, I'm gonna end it here because if I start again, it's gonna be another hour. But thanks for listening. Sorry. Thanks for listening. I say sorry to you. I don't know who I'm saying sorry to. Sorry to you if you heard that. Me bumping my leg against the thing. Sorry for me to hurt myself. Anyways, thanks for listening. As always, you can hit me up at Elijah Claude, ElijahClaude on any platform. I do my best to respond. Love to help people. Love to make life more fulfilling for you and for me. And hit me up if you want to work on this. If you want to just figure out how you can make your life a better life. If you want to, I don't know, figure out whatever. If you want to just talk, let me know. I'm on YouTube, Instagram, I guess. Not really Instagram, but whatever. On LinkedIn, on email. Just hit me up on Gmail. ElijahClaude at gmail.com. Hopefully I get my own email, service soon, so I'm not tied to Google anymore. But Twitter, I'm on there. And I'll be in the metaverse, wherever that is. So whether you're listening tonight, tomorrow, next year, next decade, next century, next millennia, I don't know, version of myself probably out there. So hit me up. I'll be happy to talk. And have a great day. Have a great night. Bye bye.